Hey everyone.
Hey, hey,
Oh, how's everyone doing today? Good.
good, good.
Yeah. Um, cool. As you guys are trickling in, please feel free to share where you're from and everything. Yeah. Love to get to know you guys. Cool, cool. Let's see. Seattle, Chicago, Denver, New York. It's awesome. Right on. Cool. Let's see. Austin. Another Austinite. Cool. Right on, Aisha. LA. Yeah. Yeah, Austin's been crazy. It's been like triple digits all week and everything. Yeah, so it's been, yeah, this heat wave's been getting to me.
Zachary, where are you right now? I heard you were on the other side of the world.
I'm in Scotland. It's a
Yeah.
little over the pond.
Nice.
But yeah, it's all good. It's a little later
Launching our new
here.
Flatiron campus in Scotland. Are
Yeah,
you?
I can't wait. Come on over. They got some wicked great accents over here.
Awesome.
Well, Tim, do you want to go ahead and kick it off,
Yeah.
and the three of us can introduce ourselves, and then when we're ready, I'm happy to get started and dive into the programming.
Okay. Definitely. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tim, and I am a product marketer. I'll be behind the scenes here and to tackle any questions you guys might have. And then, yeah, so before we get started, in the chat button below, if you see it says it defaults to hosts and panelists. If you want to change that to everyone, this way everyone can see and participate in our chat function for tonight. Yeah, but yeah, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you. Yeah, Joshua. Yeah.
Yeah, Zach, do you want to go ahead and
Oh,
introduce yourself?
Yeah. My name is Zach. I work on the admissions team. So if any of you lovely folks get to come our way, you'll most likely run into me or my other comrade, Michael Crashes. We'll be kind of going through the admissions process, applications, interviews, assessments, all that good stuff. But we'll be with you till you start on day one with these awesome folks. So yeah.
Fantastic. And my name is Joshua Robinson. I'm the director of the product design program here at Flatiron School, and I will be facilitating most of the session tonight and walking you through what the experience is like. And we'll talk a lot about just product design and try to get a feel for what it is, who's hiring product designers, what the job responsibilities are, and then what are the skills and projects that we teach you at Flatiron School. So as we go through the program tonight, please feel free to use the Q&A function. So you'll see it down there by the raise hand at the bottom of your screen. You are welcome to submit questions throughout the entire program, and I will keep an eye. If the question is about curriculum content, if it's about the program, then I may pause and answer your question in the moment. If it's more about admissions or something that I'm not as savvy to answer, that Tim or Zachary, I may delay and not answer that question until the end. Okay, but feel free to go ahead and ask your questions. I'd rather you ask your question in the moment as you think about it, so that it's documented and then we can get to it. You also are able to upvote questions. So we don't have a huge crowd tonight, so I don't think that I think we'll be able to get to everyone's questions, but if you find something in particular that you're interested in, feel free to upvote that question. All right, this meeting is being recorded, by the way, and you can see that we have enabled the closed captioning. So if you would like to be able to use that, you can find the closed captioning on the menu at the bottom and turn on those subtitle settings. All right, with that, I'm going to share my screen and we'll dive in. So, as I mentioned, I'm the director of the product design program here at Flatiron School, and I've been with the school for several years now. Prior to Flatiron School, I was a UX strategist and UX manager at a company called Centro. We were an ad technology company that ran machine learning and programmatic interfaces for companies doing advertising. So I was an individual contributor in product design for many, many years prior to moving into education. But I started teaching, mentoring, coaching, and I have helped hundreds of people move from one career into the exciting field of product design, user research, user experience, UI design, information architecture, and a lot of just entrepreneurs. So an interesting fact is many of our graduates actually go on to do startups. They don't necessarily always jump into a product design role. Sometimes they want to learn about product sense and a good customer experience. And so they use those skills to launch their passion that they've had into a startup. So we also have a dedicated curriculum team that's just focused on product design. And I'm really proud to highlight this and talk about Dr. D. Cunningham and Anwar and Bonnie and Sienna. These are all experts in product design. They've all worked in the industry for years and have turned their knowledge and expertise and passion into teaching others and writing fantastic curriculum materials. So I think that it gives us a competitive edge against other boot camps out there because we do have a dedicated curriculum team that only focuses on product design. I would also really like to highlight some of our amazing instructors. We have a high bar for who we're willing to accept as an instructor at Flatiron School. We only take people that have been individual contributors and have worked as product designers in the industry, that have that hands-on expertise, that know exactly what it's like to be on a product design team and working in software and technology. Additionally, many of our instructors come from learning science backgrounds, from teaching backgrounds. Cameron was a teacher at a college for several years, and then he started his own design agency. Ashley Kays has had several different startups that have been successful and is just one of the most passionate individuals for teaching design that I've ever met. Jennifer, Tyler, Scott, they're all just such a fantastic group of people. So I just wanted to love on them for a little bit and let you know that we have such a great dedicated team of instructors. All right. So, what could you expect if you were to go through our program, successfully graduating Flatiron School? What kind of jobs might you end up doing? Well, if you look at the top companies that are hiring product designers, they're the same companies that are hiring software engineers, data science, cybersecurity engineers, data scientists. So cloud computing, anything with AI, machine learning, big data, VR and AR, blockchain technology, video production, and customer and user experience. According to HR Forecast, these are the roles, these are the domains in technology that are going to grow the most in the next 5 to 7 years. And you see user experience down there at the bottom. And the interesting thing, though, is that all of these have user experience. So even though user experience is expected to continue to grow in the industry, UX and UI and product design are also in cloud computing roles like IBM and Microsoft and Google. They're also in cybersecurity. They're also in ML and big data, also in VR, AR, game design, blockchain, and video production. So what's so great about product design is that we designers can kind of fit in anywhere across all of these domains. So you continue to see very high growth and demand for great user experience. Additionally, LinkedIn Learning recently put out a report that asked the question, what are the top skills that we expect hiring managers to want in the next 5 years? UX design was at the top, creativity, persuasion and collaboration, and adaptability. So those foundational skills, what you may have heard referred to as soft skills, I like to call them foundational skills, are becoming more and more important to hiring managers, because to collaborate and to be a successful team in a complex domain like AI, machine learning, VR, AR, to be able to do that, you have to have great software teams. And so hiring managers are now screening for things like, can you persuade us about your decisions? Can you collaborate cross-functionally with different people? And are you adaptable and flexible? Do you have a growth mindset? These are the type of things that hiring managers are really interested in. And so we focus on that quite heavily in our program. World Economic Forum put out this Future of Jobs report about 1.5 years ago. And they said the top skills and skill groups that employers see as rising in prominence include groups like critical thinking, analysis, problem solving, self-management, active learning, resilience, stress tolerance, and flexibility, right? So what you're seeing is this increased demand for foundational skills married with creativity and problem solving, and being able to leverage those things in a proactive and useful way to make a great user and customer experience. And so that is what is at the heart of our program, is that you're not just going to learn design skills. You're fundamentally going to change as a person, because you're going to be exercising problem solving, creativity. All of these foundational skills that are so important are everyday exercise in our program. So at the end of the day, who's hiring these product designers? We talked about the different industries, but what about companies? Well, according to Glassdoor, these are some of the top companies, and you'll recognize many of the logos here, right? And I just pulled the most recognizable, of the companies. So there are thousands and thousands of fantastic companies in every industry and sector that are hiring product designers, but these are some of the most well-known. And I'll also mention that some of our instructors and curriculum staff have worked at some of these companies. And we often have product managers and product designers that work at these different companies come in as guest experts and talk about the hiring process, talk about the type of work that you do and the skills that you employ on the job. So what are you going to be doing as a product designer? Well, you're going to be doing research. So, 5, 6, 7 years ago, it was easier to say, well, I only do pure research, or I only do user experience UX design, or I only do UI design. But these days we're seeing an increased demand. We're seeing a leveling across all of those things. And we're seeing a demand for people to be more flexible and adaptable. So we teach you to do credible, good research across the entire product lifecycle. So that's early exploratory research, define your research strategy, do user interviews, document, run surveys, usability studies, do prototype testing, right? There's always research happening in product design to inform your decisions, to make your decisions more data informed, right? The UX part of it, the user experience, what does that look like? Well, that can involve sketching out early ideas on a whiteboard or on paper. You could be creating maps of the customer experience, like what you see in the graphic here on the top right. And this shows you over time where the opportunities are to better support your customer. And as you do customer research, you may turn your insights into maps like this, and then show these maps to your teams and stakeholders and identify, here's where the customers need the most help, here's the opportunity. And then you start sketching your ideas and you create prototypes, wireframes, and you test those prototypes, which is evaluative research. So I see a couple of questions, so I'll just pause right here and answer some of these. Eric says, do product design students have an opportunity to work with software engineering students at Flatiron to mimic the workplace collaboration with technical teams? So the answer is yes. We run some hacking sessions where we actually can pair up volunteers from software engineering, data science, cybersecurity, product design. And you might have the opportunity, if you decide you want to take it, as kind of an extra credit thing, to run a hacking session and actually put something in production. So those that show initiative and curiosity for this, we will often pair with a software engineer to hack on some ideas together. And so we've seen some interesting collaborations come from, and friendships come from those. So that's one of the benefits of Flatiron School, is that we have data science, cybersecurity, and software engineers all there together. Additionally, you may be presenting your designs to a panel that includes a software engineer. You know, in hiring manager panels, they often ask you, did you collaborate with software engineers? What were the constraints that you faced from software engineering? You know, we want you to be able to speak to that. So it's important to get feedback from software engineers who will actually be building the product that you're designing. So yes, there are opportunities to collaborate. And then Chris said, do you see many graduates of the program going into product management? That's a really great question. We do see some graduates start in product management. I will say traditionally, I think it's been a little tougher to come from a program like this into a junior product management job, because number one, there are less product manager jobs than there are design jobs. Okay, so there's less to pick from, but also product management gets deeper into the strategic operations of the product and of the services and of the company. So there are just less junior and associate positions. There are less starting positions, right? It's just tougher to get a job as a product manager coming out, but it's certainly not impossible. And if that's what you wanted to do, I'm very happy to say that we can support you in that journey. And we do teach you a lot about product management, about product strategy, developing product sense, and using frameworks like Jobs to be Done and lean and agile UX frameworks that are very popular with product managers. Yeah, great question. So UI, user interface. What would you be learning and doing for user interface? Well, if you've created sketches and you've created wireframes, some people may develop good skills with color and typography and animation and visual composition, and they may actually create full mock-ups of what the product will look like. So developing design systems, documentation and collaboration with software engineers for design systems is a big part of user interface, as well as web design. So we also teach you a little bit of HTML and CSS for those that want to like specialize in web design. And then product strategy, like I just said, stakeholder alignment. How do you get your clients and your managers and the stakeholders for your projects? How do you get them to agree that this is the right problem to solve and that these solutions are the right ones to adopt, right? So facilitation and alignment are a big part of product strategy. How to find business and innovation opportunities, right? How to define who your target customer is, right? And then make sure that you are meeting their needs. And then facilitation and prioritization. So that means, how do you decide what solution is best, right? It's not an easy answer. It's not always just run the thing that performs the best, right? There's a lot that goes into prioritization and deciding what is the right time, what's the right thing, and what's the right way to do it. So that's developing product sense and product strategy. So you see all of these things come together, okay? Research, user experience, UI design, and product strategy. So those are the four sort of pillars, right, that our program is built on. So you could sum it up like this. Product designers, we work across all phases of product development, from early exploration to final execution. So what about Flatiron School program? Let's take a look at that. Once you sign on, once you join us, you're immediately welcomed into a community and a family. Okay, we start you off with 40 hours of prep work. Okay, we want to make sure that day one you are ready to launch, right? That there's nothing really holding you back from absorbing the material and getting in once we start day one. So, you know, we lay a great foundation of making sure you understand the fundamentals of those four pillars that we talked about. And then we dedicate 105 hours of content time, okay? Now, when I say content time, I mean reading, I mean guided instruction, workshops, live workshops, live labs, which you might be doing with a learning pod or independently. I mean project work, assessments, and things like, you know, hackathons, okay? So that's 105 hours of, in the live program, that takes 3 weeks to get through, okay? Full-time program, right? So 105 hours purely focused on user experience and UX, digging deep into qualitative and quantitative research and UX methods. And then we do the same thing for 3 weeks on user interface design, really studying visual composition, typography, color, what makes delightful user experiences with animation and interaction design. What are the most appropriate patterns to use to make sure that you're accomplishing the right goals. After that, we have 210 hours or 6 weeks of studio work. The studio work are when you really start working on the bigger projects. We still have the guided instruction, the daily labs, you know, the reading and the workshops, but you're also working on these really interesting projects across the course of 3 weeks, running these design sprints over and over, right? And we look at things like designing for the web, HTML, CSS, and designing applications. So you're talking about Apple devices and Material Design 3 or working on Android devices and Microsoft and IBM devices. In Studio 2, that's when we really start looking at product strategy, things like information design, getting into more specialist topics like information design. So that's data visualization, how to best present information and data and working with data. And then finally, our final phase is the specialization phase. And it's a really, really cool thing because we teach you how to put together your case studies and your portfolios so that you're getting ready to move into tech prep and career prep. So that's after post-graduation when you start working with a whole other team to prepare you for your job search and interviews. But we want to make sure you're comfortable presenting and defending your design decisions, how to do design presentations, how to do whiteboard challenges. But the specialization part, we give you 2 weeks to deep dive into either research, UX, UI, or product strategy. So we have a whole capstone project where you can choose what you're most passionate about, what you want to showcase in your portfolio. And you can choose an aspect of those 4 pillars to specialize in the capstone project during the specialization phase. So once you graduate, what happens, right? You've got, you finish the projects, you're ready to go. Well, you move into something called tech prep curriculum and career prep curriculum. And this is where you're getting more support, more learning about how to structure your portfolio to showcase everything that you've created and learned. And then how to get through technical interviews. You'll be refining your portfolio throughout this whole time. And you get 180 days of individual career coaching. So you'll be meeting one-on-one with a career coach who will give you feedback on your case study, on your portfolio, everything, getting into the weeds with like LinkedIn and your resumes and networking events will help you put out blog posts, right? So you're going to be building all of this credibility in the industry and networking, as well as doing things like practice interviews, really building your brand. And again, the support doesn't end just because you get a job offer, right? There's a lot of things to figure out, like how do I negotiate the offer, right? How do I know if the offer is fair? How do I know if I'm going to like this team? What kind of questions should I ask? We want to make sure that you're fully supported throughout that entire transition to the new career. All right, so Nora, thank you for the question. How many portfolio projects and case studies do you graduate with? A minimum of 4. A minimum of 4. Up to 6, because some of the projects can be broken down into like smaller sub projects almost. So some students decide that they want to really highlight and dig deep into only particular parts of the project, and so they end up breaking it down. So a minimum of 4 is the quick answer to that. Thank you for the question. So your daily schedule, what would a day in the life of a Flatiron student look like? Well, you're going to start, you got to get your coffee, you got to do your yoga, got to do your meditation, right? And then you got to be ready to meet for morning stand. So morning stand is where you set your goals for the day with your learning pod or with your instructor or your cohort, right? And you say, here's what I have to work on today. And then you move into guided instruction. So this could look like, this is live instruction with your learning pod or your cohort, where your instructor is either walking you through theory and concepts, either via a short lecture, but they usually quickly move into some type of interactive workshop where the instructor is working alongside you to build something. It's one of our fundamental principles is that we believe in building, okay? We're not just gonna lecture at you, I promise. We are gonna have you in there building things, making things in Figma day one, right? If you don't practice it every single day, right, you're not gonna really internalize what you learn. So you need both. You need the theory and the concepts, but you need that constant reps of practice. So we believe very strongly in interactive and guided instruction like that. Then you're gonna break for lunch. Sometimes you'll do a group lunch, right? Sometimes you may watch a conference video of a product designer presenting a case study or something. Sometimes you just may do a fun lunch where you do, charades or talk about something silly and just meet your cohort. Other times you do independent lunch where you want to get some time, get a break away, take a walk outside. That's important too. Once you come back from lunch, you dive into the daily lab. So the lab is another chance for you to practice everything that you learned during the guided instruction in the morning, right? So labs scaffold and build on all of that instruction, and they also prepare you for the assessment at the end of every single week. So there's a short assessment that you're working on at the end of every week, and labs help you practice and get ready for that. The later afternoons are typically spent on project work, reading and prepping for the next day. And at the end of the day, you usually gather again just to recap, okay, I set these goals for the day and here are my blockers, or here's what I accomplished. Celebrate your successes, right? Or get ready to come back the next day at the very end. After that, you go and you get a great night's sleep. So what software will you be working with? Well, many different pieces of software, but these are the primary ones that we work with. Figma is, you're in Figma every single day, okay? We use Figma for all of our lectures, all of our workshops and interactive sessions. We use it for all of our labs. So you are going to be a Figma expert by the time you graduate. Additionally, we also teach some Webflow for those that really want to get into web development and launch some of their own websites. Some students like to launch their portfolio using Webflow. So you actually get a free year of professional access for both Figma and Webflow when you sign on to Flatiron School. Canvas is our learning management system where we have all of our reading and quizzes and things like that. Miro, I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. After all these years, I still don't know. It's a virtual whiteboard, so you'll be doing a lot of virtual sessions and building collaboratively in Miro. And then we teach you coding, a little bit of HTML and CSS in Replit. I'll talk a little bit more about the coding part because some people hear that word and they think, I don't want to code. Nope. Again, it is very minimal, very light. It is really more focused on how understanding HTML and CSS better supports you as a product designer. So we're not teaching you a little bit of that code so that you can go do something different. It's only to support your understanding of what's happening in the designs. Classes. These are, I actually took these pictures a couple of days ago. We work with, this is our Amazon cohort, so we work with Amazon to train some of their apprentices in product design. And so I was watching them go through the workshop together, and it was just something so so cool about seeing all of their little cursors moving around as they all individually worked on practicing the thing that the instructor taught them. You can see the instructor taught them how to do it up at the top left, and they're all working as the instructor demonstrates it. And I was just kind of spellbound and mesmerized watching all of these cursors move around and see how all the individuals come together as a whole. And by watching one another work, they arrived at a bigger and better understanding of the material. It was such a cool thing. So online classes, again, we try to make it as fun, as motivating, as interesting and relevant as possible. Staying on Zoom, for hours and hours. We make sure that you have breaks. We make sure that we keep you going, keep you hydrated, keep you ready to learn. So that's a lot of what your classes are going to be, is working together inside a program like Figma or Miro or Webflow. Now I'm excited to announce we are about to run our first in-person cohort in New York. So if you are from New York, I saw a couple of you there. I don't know, Zachary can speak to it. There may be a day or two left if you wanted to jump in and get into that cohort. I think, Zach, is there a day or two left if they wanted to jump in?
There indeed is. We got until Friday and end of the day. So if you are interested, I can slip my email and stuff in the chat. We can talk about how quickly we can get through that process, but it's pretty exciting. First roundabout here in New York, first of many, and it's going to be a nice tight-knit group of students. So a lot of extra time with instructors. So just let me know if you guys have any questions.
Yeah, awesome. Definitely hook up with Zach if you think you would like to attend in person. And if you can't make this cohort, that's okay. We'll have another one right behind it in New York. But these are some pictures from previous in-person cohorts that we ran, and it's just a phenomenal time. It's magical. It's life-changing. So if you have the chance and you're in New York, or you don't mind, renting a place in New York for 15 weeks, I can't recommend it enough. Okay, did I skip a slide? Nope. Actually, let's pause here and see if there's any questions. Okay, so Aisha, thanks for this question. This is always a great question. Are there real world experience available for students of Flatiron? Are students paired with startups or companies during the courses to address real world design concerns? So I answered this question by saying yes and no. When I say yes, what I mean is the way we find projects for you to work on is we go to clients, we go to hiring managers, and we ask them to show us projects that their designers are working on. And we sort of reverse engineer those projects into projects for you all. As an example, one of our capstone projects is working with a startup who is trying to teach teach children about the value of money. Okay. And the client came to us and said, I have all of this research. I have no idea what to do with it. I'm not sure I even did good research. I have all these ideas, but I don't know how to do it. So we created this whole project brief where the students can work with research, user experience, or UI around that whole startup and the ideas that the startup has. So you aren't interacting with the clients during the course, but you are working on projects that come from real projects in the real world. That was very important to us, that any type of project wasn't just some random idea that we thought, hey, this will look cool in a portfolio. That's nonsense, right? Like, it's got to be more, it's got to be deeper than that, right? You've got to have a lot to dig into. And especially to like stand out in a crowded hiring market, we wanted to make sure that you had a lot of interesting things for the project. So we go to hiring managers and startups and different people, and we say, show us your problems, show us what we could use. And we often do like take graduates, and if there's like an interest and like there's a kind of synchronicity there, and we may pair you with the startup that gave us the project, right, and kind of create that relationship. So yeah, there's lots of cool opportunities. Any part-time classes? Oh, thank you, Zachary, for answering that. All right. So I won't belabor this too much. I won't spend a lot of time because I've talked a good bit about the type of coursework that we offer, but I thought it might be interesting for you all just to kind of look at some of the modules and lessons that we teach. Some of you may be really, really interested in like, well, what does it mean to run inclusive design? What does it mean to do accessible design or ethical design, right? So we have lessons around all of those and how that sort of lays the foundation for all of the other work that you do. Again, research, we get into both qualitative and quantitative research methods, research planning and strategy, recruiting research participants, how to analyze and synthesize the data that you get back. What do you do with all this information? And then who do you show it to? What form do you create in order to persuade people with your research findings? I've talked a fair amount about UX design, but if you see some keywords here that are interesting to you, feel free to ask in the chat, and I'm happy to dig deeper into things like, well, what is UX writing, or what do journey maps do, or site maps, or what are task flows? UI design, there's just so much good stuff in UI design. It's just one of my favorite phases because I started in UI design, so I certainly have a soft spot for visual composition and color and typography and just making things really, really usable, useful, and beautiful. You can see here when we talked about product sense and product management. So things like writing great problem statements. How do you scope a problem? How do you take a huge, huge complex problem and like get it down into something that's actually viable for a product team to solve, right? These are, I mean, guys, these are things that like a lot of other programs are not even really thinking about. Like, they don't really think that much about developing product sense. It's more about like, well, we can teach you to make nice wireframes and make personas. And again, I'm not like saying those things are bad. That's all part of it. But what we want is for our graduates to really stand out in the market, to really understand what it means to like have a product sense. So digging deep into jobs to be done, writing user stories, storytelling, working in teams, again, those foundational skills, it all works together. And again, those 4 columns, like they're not just distinct columns, research, UX, UI, and product. They really, interconnect. Everything's intertwinkled. So if you want to see like some of the projects that the students have put out, I only have permission from a couple of students to show you right now, but Justin Shee is a graduate of our 2nd or 3rd cohort, I think. And Justin did like just some really phenomenal work on developing his capstone project. He came out with this really, really interesting concept and idea for matching people with games. So I thought that was really, really neat. Debbie Chan went on to do some really, really cool stuff with Teens for Food Justice. So building a food system. She came up with this really interesting concept about a youth-led movement with hydroponic farming. So I said I'd talk a little bit about common objections that we hear often. So first one would be, I'm not a creative person. Right? Or no one's ever told me that I'm creative. I'm not a designer. I don't know typography or color. And I would say everyone's creative. And that's what I love so much about the program is whatever you have done up until the point where you start the program is incredibly useful to you during and after the program. So I like to say nothing's wasted. It doesn't matter what career you've come from, how old you are, how young you are, how much college you have, how much college you don't have, right? It's life experience. If you're alive, you can be a designer. And that doesn't mean that there's a low bar to entry, okay? So don't hear me say that. Don't hear me say that everyone can be a designer and think that, oh, it's a low bar to entry. That's not the case at all. What I mean to say is that design gets at some of the most fundamental things that make us human. Creativity and problem solving, critical thinking, right? And so we will teach you how to make nice color palettes. We will teach you how to use Figma and use typography good enough. If UI is not your thing, that's okay. Everything you learn about UI will make you a better UX designer, will make you a better researcher, okay? Nothing is wasted. I don't want to code. So I already kind of talked about this. Again, we're talking about a couple of days worth of lessons about HTML and CSS. And I'm telling you, when you go through the lessons, things will snap into place like puzzle pieces, okay? Because tools like Figma and Webflow, all of their interface things are based on how CSS works in the web. So we actually have a lot of software engineers that come through the program that have decided they want to move into product design, or maybe they want to launch their own brand or product, right? To be an entrepreneur. And so they need the customer development and they need the design part of it. So marrying those two things together. But we know how to support you. Like I said, we have 10 years of history teaching thousands of people how to learn to code. And when I say that, I'm talking about incredibly difficult back end and front end code, okay? We can teach you 3 days of HTML and CSS. You would be fine. I can't quit my job, right? It is not a requirement that you quit your job. We have the part-time program that you are able to go through. The difference there is that you're not getting to be in the live lectures, so you won't there are plenty of opportunities to do study sessions, to meet peers, to meet your instructor. You're still going to be supported with a community of people. You're in the Slack channels every day with all of the rest of the live students. So there's a lot of interaction there and a lot of support and community, but you don't have to quit your job. Going through the online full-time program, I don't recommend having a job going through that online program because it can be up to 60 hours a week, but I've seen it done. I've seen if people have the willpower to do that, and that's just their life, that's just where they are in life, and they have to maintain that job, that's fine. That's fine. I think I've addressed this pretty well. If you want to do UX, everything you learn about UI and research will make you a better UX designer. Same for UI research. Same if you want to be a product manager. Okay, so rising tide lifts all boats, right? Nothing is wasted. So we give you opportunities. If you already know that you want to do research, 50% of our Amazon cohort are going to just be UX researchers, right? They're not going to be a UI designer. They're not going to be UX designer. But it was still very important because they're going to be working with UX designers and UI designers. It was very important to Amazon that they get enough of those skills, like to be able to work collaboratively and work really well with the team. So if you do decide you want to specialize in one of these things, like I mentioned, there's the specialization, 2 weeks of specializations at the end of it where you deep dive into a project specialization. But even the other projects have opportunities where you can really hit on the part that you want. If you want to do UI design and highlight that in the projects, then that's what you're going to put in your portfolio, and that's what you're going to really focus on. So we know how to support you if you decide you really want to like specialize in it. And this is something that a graduate sent a couple of days ago. I just thought it was really sweet, kind of made my heart swell a little bit. And he said, thank you everyone for the positive responses. He just gotten a job. Sorry, I didn't set this up well, did I? Context. He had just got accepted a job offer, his first job offer as a product designer. He says, a side note for all the students at Flatiron reading this, I want you to understand if I can do it, anyone can. I don't have a degree, but I work hard. Hard work pays off. Last thing I will say is just this quote: the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So I'll go back and just say again that you're going to learn so much in this program, but you are fundamentally going to change as a person for the better. And I think that has to be part of it. I think you have to fundamentally change. I think you have to learn, you have to unlearn to learn, and you have to relearn. And that's all a part of the journey. And so if you're interested in taking that journey with us, I don't think you could do it with a better group of people. I love our team. I love our curriculum team, admissions, marketing. So that's all I have. I'm open for questions. So fire away if you have anything else that you want to talk about. Go ahead. Yeah, the admissions process. So Zachary, I'll let you take this. Nora says, what's the assessment consist of, the application and interview, and do we offer scholarships?
Yeah, great questions, Nora. So the admission process, pretty straightforward, pretty simple. What you can do, I can send you some links, but on our website, go to the product design page, click apply. It'll have you fill out some basic information, your name, phone number, best email, all that good stuff. Once you apply, within probably less than 24 hours, probably within the hour, someone will reach out to you, someone like myself, whether it's call, text, or email, and we'll set up a time for an interview. Admissions interviews are non-technical. I consider them just more conversations over time, just understanding a good fit for the program, making sure that we have time to get you where you need to go and set that up. As for the actual assessment, it's a 15-minute quiz. It's about 50 questions long, all multiple choice. Think SAT style questions. If Susie and Sally have 5 balloons and they take away 4, how many are left? Things like that, really just testing your aptitude. I always tell students, don't stress about the test. If you don't do well the first time, you do get a second round. We have articles on how to pass it. We're not trying to put bars on the windows. We want you to be here. Just a simple thing. We want you to go forward, and the real work will come later, and the pre-work and things like that. But I'll be there for you to help coach you through what that looks like. And as for scholarships, we do 2 scholarships that are really big right now are Women in Tech and our Access Scholarship. Both range between $1,000 and $3,000. Just ask your admissions rep after you get through the rounds of interviews about them, and they'll usually send you a link to apply for them. If you're awarded one, they will be applied straight to your tuition, so you don't have to worry about that. And the only thing you pay up front is a $500 deposit once you get through the admissions process. I just flew through that information, so I don't expect you to remember it all. Just please, I'll put my email on your question, text me, call me. We can set up a time and talk. I'm always happy to help.
I think I got a question here in the chat. to talk a little bit more about the daily workload for the part-time program. Yep. So the part-time program, it really is quite flexible. You're actually doing the same amount of work that the live program consists of. So there's nothing cut from the program. What it does give you, and I think this is interesting, what the part-time program gives you is more opportunities to iterate on your work. So not everyone in the part-time program has to work every single day. I advise you, even if it's just 30 minutes, I would advise you to interact or do some work in the program every single day you're in it. All right, so it's a lot about developing like the habit. That's really, really important, especially if you're considering the part-time program. So I would advise you, if you're considering it, to think about the way that you have tackled projects in the past. Are you able to organize projects pretty well? Are you able to organize your time? Are you able to set a goal and then stick with it? Do you need a lot of accountability and things like that? If you, full transparency, like I am terrible at setting goals and sticking with it. I'm neurodivergent. I have ADHD. A part-time program would never in hell work for me. Never. I couldn't do it. I would really absolutely need like the daily interaction and accountability of the live program. Okay. So I think the question I would think about is fit and not worry so much about the workload, because it is flexible. It can flex with your time. For example, one of our students was in a wedding, right? And they had to fly to, oh God, I don't remember where it was. It was somewhere wild, okay? It wasn't Scotland, sorry, Zach. And they were flying across the world. They were like, I'm gonna be gone like a week. Can the flex program, or can the part-time program accommodate this need in my life? And the answer is absolutely. If you need to take a week off in the part-time program, that's okay. If you have a day where you can dedicate 8 hours, great. You know, if you can dedicate weekends and do 8 to 10 hours on the weekend, and then maybe an hour a day, or maybe 2 hours one day, no hours another day, right? It really is flexible. But you've got to have that motivation to do it. And you've got to have that kind of internal thing that knows that you can organize your time really, really well. Otherwise, you'll be frustrated in the flex program. So what I can say is, if you are in a position where like you can't quit your job, or you have life responsibilities, and so you need the flex program, but you're not sure that you can do it because of the reasons that I mentioned, because maybe you're not a great time management person, you should talk about that with admissions, because we have supports and recommendations in place if you can talk about those things with us proactively. Okay, so I don't mean to like scare anyone and say like, oh, I can't do this. Like I'm scared of failing or setting goals and not meeting them. We can help you, but you have to really be open and honest about those limitations that you might have. That's how you'll be successful, is like partnering in a transparent way with us. That's more information than you probably wanted to know. But I'm just speaking from experience and what I have, and the people that I see be successful in the part-time program, and the people versus the people in the live program.
To reiterate that, he's spot on about that. I get questions about flex all the time, and I'm highly encouraged. It's a great program to fit your life. But 10 to 15 months is a long time to be in school. It's another thing to learn a new skill that takes time to learn. Like it's like going to the gym or whatever that takes. Like it's repetitiveness, and it sounds good in theory, but in practice, it can be really hard. Everyone wants the remote job and the high salary and all that good stuff. It's achievable, but there's a lot of work in between there and then. And like we we want to help you. But, like you just said, like knowing yourself, like what you can produce and what you can put in consistently over time is a big deal. I mean, live is another thing, like full time, that's a fast pace. You also have to know yourself in that, right? If you are able to get to a point where you can quit your job or put your things on hold so you can do this for 3.5 months, there's another layer to that even after you get in, like keeping the pace and like knowing yourself. Do I learn things slower? Do I need more time? Like we want to put you in a position to be successful. Know the struggle is the way, but we have options in there and we can talk through those.
Yeah, just couldn't agree more with that. Chris, your question, is there any sort of accountability or deadlines in Flatiron's part-time program? Yeah, like we have a pacing strategy for everyone. So you will know if you are off pace or on pace, right? So we have something called milestones set up for you. We have a whole web application set up that we've created to help keep you on track. So yes, I remiss if I don't mention that there are accountability layers built in. But at the end of the day, it's still up to you, right, to meet those, to meet those milestones. Great question. I'm really interested. I know we only have a few minutes left, but I'm just curious, what does everyone do right now? And I don't just mean like for your job. Sure, I'd love to know what your job is, but some people's job is being a full-time mom. Like, my wife's a full-time mom. That is like her job, and that's what she loves. So if there's any, I'd just love to know like what you're up to right now, if you don't mind sharing. Oh my gosh, yeah. The reason why I ask is just because the range of backgrounds that people come into product design from is just endlessly fascinating. Because, okay, middle school teacher, Chris, right? Your facilitation skills in a classroom would be amazing at leading like stakeholder design alignment sessions. Herding cats in some instances, like that's what I would liken stakeholder alignment to. So presentation skills, the ability to like keep people's attention, communication skills, being a middle school teacher, oh my gosh, yeah. Sales specialist. A lot of the Amazon cohort right now comes from some sort of like sales or customer support background. So absolutely, like you've probably got that muscle built up about what it takes to be persuasive, about what it takes to hold someone's attention, about how to meet the needs, right? Like how to really identify what are the needs, the goals, the motivations of the users, of the customers. Finance, yeah. Music teacher. I just got through putting together a presentation I'm gonna do in a couple of months about how UI design is like learning music, actually, because I talk about rhythm and flow, rhythms and scales, and how that's like visual composition and sidebar. But yes. Working at a cat cafe and a background in education. Oh my gosh, a cat cafe. I don't even know what that is, but I really, really want to know. Tim or Zach, do you know what a cat cafe is? Is that where you like can take your cat and like meet other cat owners? And because Tim, you want a cat?
Actually, I have a dog.
Oh, sorry. I thought I've seen a cat.
Yeah, he pops his head up from time to time, and it's like, yeah. But yeah,
background in speech pathology, clinical research. Okay, yeah, we have some strong people with strong research backgrounds. Clinical research, anthropological, anything in the social sciences. People like recognize a lot of the UX research because they're like, oh, this is very familiar. I know about these qualitative methods. They're just called something different now, right? We just talk about them differently in a new context. But so much of that UX comes, from research, e-commerce, project manager, man, project designers who can project manage are like the best people to work with, especially for me, right? Because I'm a terrible project planner and manager. Oh, thank you, Sydney. Resident and adoptable cats in our lounge, and you can buy coffee. Wow, that sounds amazing. So you can just go to the cat cafe and spend time with cats and kittens and have coffee. Are you in Chicago by any chance? Because I may see you tomorrow. Oh, okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing. Min, full-time mom, I love it. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. And a kindergarten teacher. Yep. Speaking of herding cats. Oh. Okay. Studio art student. Yeah. Oh, you're in Seattle. Okay. A little bit far away, but no, that's not true. We had a curriculum designer who used to live in Seattle, but he moved. Everyone, I just want to say thank you so much for spending the time. Can you finish the Flex program earlier than 9 months? Yes. Yeah. I would encourage you to. If you can, you can go at your pace. Mm-hmm. You can go ahead of the milestones, and actually what's cool is the milestones will adapt to your pacing, right? So if you want to pace faster than 40 weeks, do it in 20 weeks, then then your milestones will reset to your new pace. That's cool. Again, thank you so much, everyone, for spending time. I've had a really lovely evening getting to just talk about the program and getting to hang out with Zach and Tim and all of you. And thank you for sharing about what you're doing. And I wish you the best of luck in what you either continue to do, or if you decide you want to join us here. Please keep in touch. And thanks, everyone. We'll send out the presentation that I gave as a follow-up email. So we'll export that as a PDF, and you'll have all of the information. All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you.